because I've used it my whole life. I openly will admit now, I took my first hit of marijuana. I was a senior in high school. My buddy's parents had gone to southern Minnesota, so they left the house. To us, that's trouble. If you're from South Minneapolis and you're, and the other reason was it was springtime. I was done with football. I was done with swimming. I'm waiting to graduate, and we're at this party, and my friend's older brother was at the University of Minnesota at that time, and this is 1969. So let's remember, Minnesota's about 2 years behind 1967 California and Monterey. So all the stuff from 67 is now just arriving in Minnesota in 69. And so he had a joint that day or that night, and we're all sitting there, four of my buddies and the older brother, and I thought, why not? I'm graduating from high school. I'm done being an athlete. What the hell? I took my first hit of marijuana, and I'll be honest, we had been drinking since junior high. Anybody that tells you different, baloney. You know what we used to do? Tell you a good story. We lived right by the river off of 32nd Street and Lake Street, and there was a big sandbar down there. We, as young junior high kids, would go down there every Saturday and Sunday morning because the old kids would have drinking parties down there at night, and some of the booze would get lost, and we'd find it. And we had a cave down there where we accumulated it. And we started putting all these different brands of beer. I mean, we had it covered. And then we waited for one Saturday, told our parents we're going fishing. And we went down to the river and did one of those rare occasions. We got drunk and sober in the same afternoon and went home. You remember those old days, getting drunk and sober in the same day. So, we were drinkers. Let's face it, back then, you had big brothers, the college guy, everybody'd get their booze, and, a lot more went on than what society realized with the drinking. Well, getting back on target here, I took my first hit of marijuana, and I remember I turned to everyone in the room, and I looked at them all, and I said, the hell with drinking. I said, this is way better. Why? It was instant. I took that first hit. Whoa. Exhaled, and about 10 seconds later, I started feeling wonderful. And that was the only way to describe it. And I thought, the hell with drinking. This is way better. Number one, you don't get sick. Number two, you don't get a hangover. The list goes on and on. So getting back to my story, of course, I went in the Navy then, and I didn't smoke much pot in the Navy, but you got it. I did 17 months in Southeast Asia, and so it was pretty hard to avoid it over there on occasion. And the good thing about the military back in the early 70s, they didn't drug test for marijuana.
Does anybody know when that started?
I never was subjected, because it's an awful test, because you'll test positive, a week later, right, Doc?
Yep,
Because
even up to a month.
Yeah, and you're not affected by it anymore. That's why it's a phony test. Right. If they're going to test, they need something that would test it immediately.
Exactly.
Not something that where it sits in your fat cells and you test positive 3 weeks later. Well, you're hardly high 3 weeks later.